You are 35 years old. You have a career, a home, maybe even a family of your own. You know how to navigate the adult world. You pay your bills on time. You show up when you are supposed to. From the outside looking in, everything appears to be in order. And yet, there are moments when you feel like a child again. Not in a good way. Someone criticizes your work, and suddenly you are 8 years old, desperate for approval, heart pounding in your chest. A partner pulls away emotionally, and you find yourself flooded with a fear that feels ancient, primal, as though you have felt it 1,000 times before. Your boss raises an eyebrow during a meeting, and your stomach drops the way it did when your father came home in a bad mood. Haken. A friend cancels plans, and part of you immediately assumes they no longer want you around. These reactions do not match the situation. They are too big, too fast, too overwhelming. This is not weakness. This is not a flaw. This is the voice of someone still living inside you. Someone who never quite healed. Someone who has been waiting, sometimes for decades, to finally be heard. And healing that person might just be the key to healing everything else. The concept of the inner child is not simply a poetic idea. It is a psychological reality, a term used by therapists and researchers to describe the part of your psyche that still carries the emotional imprints of your earliest years. Every experience you had as a child, especially the painful ones, left a mark. And those marks do not disappear when you grow taller or learn to pay taxes. They stay with you. They shape the way you see yourself, the way you connect with others, and the way you respond to the world around you. Think about it this way. When you were young, your brain was like wet cement. Every interaction with your caregivers, every moment of love or neglect, every time you were praised or criticized, all of it pressed into that soft surface and hardened over time. By the time you reached adulthood, those impressions had become the foundation upon which you built your entire sense of self. The problem is that many of us were never given the chance to examine that foundation. We simply kept building, unaware that cracks were forming beneath us. Consider a composite example based on patterns often observed in therapeutic settings. Picture someone who, on the surface, appears to have everything together: a good job, a loving partner, a comfortable life. And yet, deep down, this person feels a constant pressure to be perfect. Every small mistake feels catastrophic. Every criticism, no matter how gentle, lands like a blow. This person works harder than anyone else, not out of ambition, but out of fear. A fear that if they slow down, if they are anything less than flawless, they will be abandoned. Where does this fear come from? It does not come from the present moment. It comes from a child who learned long ago that love was conditional, that approval had to be earned, that being good was the only way to be safe. This is what psychologists call a core wound. A core wound is an emotional injury from childhood that continues to influence your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors as an adult. It is like a splinter that was never removed. On the surface, the skin healed over, but underneath, the infection remained. And every time something presses against that spot, the pain returns, fresh and sharp, as though the injury just happened. The mind has a long memory for pain. It files away hurts and disappointments with remarkable precision. And it uses these old files to interpret new experiences, even when those interpretations no longer apply. The most common core wounds tend to fall into a few categories, and understanding them can illuminate patterns that have puzzled you for years. There is the wound of abandonment, carried by those who learned early on that the people they depended on could disappear at any moment. Perhaps a parent left. Perhaps a caregiver was emotionally unavailable, there in body, but absent in spirit. Children who experience abandonment often grow into adults who cling too tightly to relationships, terrified that if they relax their grip, everyone will slip away. There is the wound of rejection, felt by those who were made to feel unwanted or unworthy of love. Maybe you were the child who was always chosen last. Maybe you had a sibling who seemed to receive more affection, more attention, more approval. The rejected child learns to question their own value. They spend their lives trying to prove they are good enough, often to people who will never offer the validation they seek. There is the wound of betrayal, experienced by those whose trust was broken by the very people meant to protect them. A parent who made promises they never kept. A caregiver who shared secrets that were supposed to be safe. Betrayal teaches children that the world is unpredictable and that people cannot be counted on. Adults carrying this wound often struggle to let others in, building walls so high that no one can ever hurt them again. And there is the wound of neglect, carried by those who were physically present but emotionally invisible to their caregivers. No one hit them, no one yelled, but no one truly saw them either. Neglected children grow up feeling like ghosts, unsure if their needs matter, uncertain if they even have the right to want things for themselves. They often become the helpers, the pleasers, the ones who take care of everyone else while ignoring their own hearts. These wounds do not announce themselves with fanfare. They do not introduce themselves when they arrive. They hide in the shadows, influencing your life from behind the scenes, pulling strings you cannot see. You may not even realize they are there until something triggers them. A trigger is simply a present-day experience that echoes an old pain. It could be a tone of voice that sounds like your mother when she was disappointed. It could be a facial expression that reminds your nervous system of your father's anger. It could be a situation that resembles something from your past. A crowded room where you feel invisible. A conversation where someone interrupts you. A moment where you feel like you are not enough. When you encounter a trigger, your nervous system does not distinguish between then and now. The amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for processing emotional memories, does not care about calendars or clocks. It reacts as though the threat is happening in this very moment, flooding your body with the same stress hormones, the same racing heart, the same urge to fight or flee or freeze. This is why you can feel completely overwhelmed by something that, logically, seems small. Your adult mind knows the situation is manageable. Your adult mind understands that a cancelled dinner plan is not the end of the world. But your inner child is screaming for help, convinced that the old pain is happening all over again, terrified that the worst is about to unfold. The disconnect between adult logic and childlike emotion is at the heart of so many struggles. You tell yourself that you should not feel jealous, but the jealousy burns anyway. You know that you are safe, but anxiety floods your body regardless. You understand that not everyone will leave you, but your heart races at the slightest sign of distance. This friction is not a sign that something is wrong with you. It is a sign that there is a part of you that was wounded and never properly healed. And until you address that wound, no amount of logic will quiet the storm inside. So why does the brain hold on to old pain? Why does it not simply let go and move on? The answer lies in the way memory works, especially the kind of memory formed during early childhood. When something painful happens to a child, the brain encodes that experience not just as information, but as a survival lesson. The subconscious mind files it away under the label of danger. And from that point forward, any similar situation will activate the same alarm system. This is the brain doing exactly what it evolved to do, protecting you from threats. The problem is that the brain cannot tell the difference between a real danger and an emotional one. It treats the possibility of rejection with the same urgency as the possibility of physical harm. This protective mechanism served a purpose when you were small and vulnerable. But now, as an adult, it often works against you. It keeps you stuck in patterns that no longer serve you. It convinces you that taking risks is too dangerous, that trusting others is too risky, that showing your true self will only lead to pain. In trying to keep you safe, your subconscious mind keeps you trapped. The good news is that change is possible. The brain is not a static organ carved in stone. It is capable of remarkable growth and adaptation throughout your entire life. This quality, known as neuroplasticity, means that the patterns etched into your mind during childhood are not permanent sentences. They can be rewritten. New neural pathways can be formed, like trails being carved through a dense forest. Old wounds can finally heal, not by forgetting the past, but by changing your relationship to it. Research in neuroscience has shown that the brain can form new connections at any age. Every time you practice a new way of thinking, feeling, or responding, you strengthen certain pathways and weaken others. The brain is constantly reorganizing itself based on your experiences. This means that the stories you tell yourself, the ways you speak to yourself, and the patterns you choose to repeat all have real physical effects on the structure of your mind. Healing is not just a metaphor. It is a biological process. The process of healing the inner child often involves what therapists call reparenting. Reparenting is the practice of giving yourself the care, validation, and support that you may not have received as a child. It is not about blaming your parents or dwelling on the past with bitterness or resentment. Most caregivers did the best they could with the tools they had. But it is possible to acknowledge that certain needs went unmet without vilifying anyone. And it is possible to take responsibility for meeting those needs now, as an adult who has resources and capacities that the child never had. Imagine for a moment that you could travel back in time and sit beside your younger self. Picture the child you once were, small, vulnerable, trying their best to navigate a world they did not fully understand. Maybe they are sitting on a bed in a quiet room, wondering why they feel so alone. Maybe they are standing in a playground, watching other children play, unsure if they belong. Maybe they are hiding somewhere, waiting for the storm to pass, hoping things will be different tomorrow. What would you say to them? What would they need to hear? Perhaps they needed someone to tell them that their feelings mattered, that they were loved not for what they did, but for who they were, that it was okay to make mistakes, to stumble, to not have all the answers, that they were worthy of kindness and patience simply because they existed. This is the essence of reparenting. It is learning to speak to yourself the way a loving, attuned caregiver would. It is catching yourself in moments of self-criticism and offering compassion instead. When you make a mistake, instead of berating yourself with harsh words, you pause. You acknowledge the pain. You remind yourself that everyone falters and that one mistake does not define your worth. It is noticing when you are overwhelmed and providing the reassurance your inner child never received. You are safe now. This feeling will pass. I am here with you, and I am not going anywhere. Over time, these small acts of kindness begin to rewire the brain. They create new associations, new patterns, new possibilities. The harsh inner critic that has been running the show for decades starts to lose its grip. A gentler voice emerges, one that understands, one that forgives, one that encourages growth without demanding perfection. This voice becomes the new default, not overnight, but gradually, with consistent practice. One of the most powerful tools for healing the inner child is simply acknowledging its existence. So many of us spend years trying to suppress the childlike parts of ourselves. We tell ourselves to grow up, to stop being so sensitive, to get over it already. But this approach only deepens the wound. The inner child does not need to be silenced. It needs to be heard. When you feel a strong emotional reaction that seems out of proportion to the situation, pause. Take a breath. Instead of judging yourself or pushing the feeling away, get curious. Ask yourself when you first felt this way. Let your mind wander back through the years without forcing anything. Often, a memory will surface, sometimes clear, sometimes hazy, that connects the present feeling to a past experience. Maybe you remember being 5 years old and feeling the same tightness in your chest. Maybe you recall a specific moment with a caregiver that left a mark you never fully processed. This is your inner child, reaching out from across time, asking to be seen, not asking to be fixed or analyzed, just asking to be acknowledged. Another essential aspect of inner child work is learning to sit with uncomfortable emotions without trying to fix or escape them. This is one of the most challenging parts of the journey because everything in modern life seems designed to help us avoid discomfort. We have endless entertainment at our fingertips, substances to numb us, distractions to pull us away from whatever we are feeling. But avoidance does not lead to healing. It leads to accumulation. As children, many of us were taught that certain feelings were unacceptable. Boys learn not to cry. Girls learn not to show anger. Some of us learned that sadness made our parents uncomfortable, so we swallowed it. Some of us learned that expressing needs made us a burden, so we pretended to have none. These lessons taught us to disconnect from our emotional selves, to exile certain parts of our inner experience to dark corners where they would not cause trouble. Healing requires reconnection. It requires welcoming those exiled parts back home. It requires allowing yourself to feel whatever arises without judgment, without resistance. This does not mean wallowing in pain or letting emotions control your actions. It means creating a space within yourself where feelings can exist without being dangerous. It means becoming a safe harbor for your own inner experience. When you can hold your emotions with patience and acceptance, something remarkable happens. The intensity begins to soften. The charge begins to dissipate. The inner child, finally feeling safe, begins to relax. Physical practices can also support this healing journey. The body holds onto trauma just as the mind does. Tension, tightness, and chronic pain can all be manifestations of unprocessed emotional material. Practices like deep breathing, gentle movement, and body awareness exercises help release this stored energy and bring the nervous system back into balance. When you take care of your body, you are also taking care of the child who lives within it. Now, let us talk about the moment of integration, the turning point in the healing process that so many people describe as life-changing. Integration happens when the adult self and the inner child finally meet, not as separate entities locked in conflict, one trying to suppress the other, but as partners working toward the same goal. The adult brings wisdom, perspective, and the ability to take action in the world. The adult can analyze situations, make plans, set boundaries, and navigate complex social dynamics. The inner child brings spontaneity, creativity, and the capacity for deep feeling. The inner child knows how to play, how to wonder, how to feel joy without reason. When these two aspects of self are aligned, you gain access to a fuller, richer experience of life. Integration does not mean erasing the inner child or forcing it to grow up before it is ready. It does not mean lecturing that child about how irrational its fears are or shaming it into silence. It means welcoming it into your present-day life with open arms. It means drawing on its gifts while also providing the protection and guidance it needs. You become both the parent and the child, nurturing yourself while also allowing yourself to be vulnerable, setting boundaries while also allowing yourself to feel deeply. This integration often brings unexpected changes that ripple out into every area of life. Relationships that once felt draining become easier to navigate because you are no longer unconsciously looking for someone to fill the void left by early caregivers. Decisions that once paralyzed you begin to feel clearer because you are not being pulled in different directions by competing parts of yourself. The constant background hum of anxiety quiets down because your nervous system finally starts to believe that you are safe now, that the past is truly past. You find yourself responding to challenges with groundedness rather than panic. And perhaps most importantly, you begin to like yourself more. Not because you have become perfect, but because you have accepted all of who you are. The strong parts and the wounded parts, the capable adult and the tender child. Let us walk through a simple practice you can try. Find a quiet space where you will not be disturbed. Close your eyes and take a few slow breaths. Allow your body to settle. Then, in your mind, picture yourself as a young child. Choose an age that feels significant, perhaps a time when you remember feeling particularly hurt or alone. See the child clearly. Notice what they are wearing. Notice the expression on their face. Approach them gently as you would approach any frightened child. Sit beside them. Let them know that you are here. Tell them that you are the person they grow up to become, and that you have come back to let them know they are not alone. Speak to them with kindness. Acknowledge whatever they went through. Validate their feelings. Promise them that you will not abandon them, that you will carry them with you, that from now on, you will be the one who takes care of them. This practice may feel strange at first. You might feel emotional, or you might feel nothing at all. Both responses are normal. The important thing is to show up consistently, to keep returning to this inner relationship, to build trust over time. Healing is not a single event. It is a process, a practice, a way of moving through the world. As you continue this work, you may notice old patterns beginning to shift. The need for external validation starts to loosen its grip. The fear of abandonment, while perhaps still present, no longer controls your choices. You find yourself setting boundaries more easily, speaking your truth more freely, taking up space without apology. These are the fruits of inner child work, not just relief from pain, but expansion into a more authentic version of yourself. Of course, this journey is not always easy. It takes time and patience and a willingness to feel uncomfortable. There will be setbacks. There will be days when old wounds feel as raw as ever. There will be moments when you doubt whether any of this is working. In those moments, remember that healing is not linear. Progress happens in spirals, not straight lines. Each time you return to an old wound, you bring more awareness, more compassion, more capacity. You are not going backwards. You are going deeper. And here is something beautiful to hold on to. When you heal your inner child, you do not just heal yourself. You break a cycle that may have been running through your family for generations. The wounds that shaped you were likely shaped by wounds that came before. Pain passed down from parent to child, often unconsciously, across decades or even centuries. By doing this work, you become the place where that pattern stops. You become the one who says, "This ends with me." You have traveled far to reach this moment. The very fact that you are here, seeking understanding, seeking healing, speaks to a courage that your younger self would be proud of. You are no longer the helpless child waiting for someone to save you. You are the one you have been waiting for. The path forward is not about perfection. It is about presence. It is about showing up for yourself again and again, with all the tenderness you would offer a beloved child. Every time you do this, you are rewriting your story. You are proving to yourself that you are worthy of care. You are healing not just the past, but the present and the future too. In a world that often asks us to armor ourselves, to hide our vulnerabilities, to pretend we have it all figured out. Choosing to do this inner work is a radical act. It takes strength to look inward. It takes courage to face what you find there. And it takes love, deep, patient, unconditional love, to hold the wounded parts of yourself until they finally begin to mend. So wherever you are in this journey, know that you are not alone. Know that the child within you is still there, still waiting, still hoping to be seen. And know that it is never too late to offer them what they need. Healing your inner child is not just possible. It is one of the most important things you will ever do. Because when you heal the child, you heal the adult. And when you heal the adult, you heal your entire life. If this journey resonated with you, consider subscribing for more explorations into the depths of the human mind. There is so much more to discover together. Thank you for being here. Take good care of yourself and of the little one who lives inside you. Until next time.